Hello everybody and welcome back to Spindle TV. We are here tonight to conclude the second part of the class that we did last week, where we were taking a vector. In this case it was a vector of a sheriff's badge, and in Aspire we went through and imported that vector. We cleaned it up. We created vectors where we needed them, and then we started the actual modeling process. So in part one, if you have not seen that yet, in the description of this video is a link to part one. Definitely recommend that you check it out so you can see the part about bringing in the vector, cleaning it up to create the vectors that we need to create the models that we're going to create in tonight's class. So that way you're caught up. So if this is your first class that you're watching, definitely go back and check out part one first. But you don't have to leave part two. Just, want you to have the full effect from start to finish and everything. So tonight we are going to get back into our project, and we're going to continue building the components, the shapes. We're going to continue building those components and shapes to create this model that we're wanting to create. So sit back, enjoy the ride. Hopefully you will gain some knowledge out of this that will help you with your modeling projects. And if you are using Vectric VCarve Desktop or Vectric VCarve Pro, everything that we're doing tonight, 90% of everything we're doing tonight is a Vectric Aspire feature, building models. That 10%, let's be a little bit more generous. So 85% is going to be Vectric Aspire required. That 15% of organizing the models and the components so they blend and merge and act appropriately with one another, that all is relevant when you're working with models in Desktop Pro or Aspire. So how we handle the component tree and organize the models so all the models and components interact properly with one another, that's universal for all three, Desktop Pro and Aspire. But the actual building of the shapes from the vectors, that is all Aspire. Okay? But still, stick around, watch with us, and enjoy the class. Ask questions and all that wonderful stuff. All right, that being said, big shout out to everyone that's kind of hanging out with me tonight. There's just a few of you, and hopefully more will come. All right, here we go. Let's switch over. I believe I am on channel 2, and then I need to put myself down in the bottom left corner. And let's turn that. There we go. All right. So a quick recap. I'm going to come over to the modeling tab over here, and I'm going to turn off these component levels so we can get a good look at the vectors. And this is the vector. It was a vector that was purchased off of Etsy. It cost about $8. And in that, we have taken our original design and we have created different components that we needed, different vectors, not components. Let me use the right terms. We had to go in and create different vectors that were missing. We had to create the outside border for the star, because we're going to be building that up into a model. And then we had to go in and fix these little swirlies, these little decorative designs we had to go in and fix. And all of that is covered in part one. So we're going to come back here and we're going to turn on our entire model here, or our entire subject to be modeled, our entire vector here. And in here let's split the view so everybody can see what's happening here. Level 1. Level 1 is our base level where we created the base of our project. And that was basically using the outside vector to create this shape. So when you're working with models, it's very much like building a house. We have a foundation, our concrete slab, and then we're building up from there. Now, generally, as a default, you start off with a level 1, and the components, the shapes that you're creating from your different vectors, they're all getting piled into level 1 because that's the active level that we're working with. But there comes a time where components, certain components, have to interact properly with one another. And if you try to set their interaction, what I'm talking about their interaction is add, subtract, multiply, merge high, and merge low. Now, when we add one model to another, that model is sitting on top of the model that's underneath. It's getting added to it. So whatever's underneath it, it's going to take on that shape. If I were to make an example of this, let's say, for example, that I take this circle here and I create a shape, and let's say that I create a 45-degree dome with a 3/16" base height. On this center circle here, we're going to get a dome right in the middle of this badge, which is not part of the model. I just want to talk about the example. Now, let's say that I take this star here, and on this star, we're going to actually, let's create a different star because we have to clean this one up. There's one vector that we didn't clean up in part 1. I'm going to draw a second star here, just not that many stars. So we'll just use that as an example. Let's say that I take this star, and in my modeling, I create a shape of that star, and I'm going to do a pyramid shape, 45 degrees, and I'm going to click add. Now I'm adding the star on top of this dome. Okay? So that star is going to wrap around that dome, and let me make the let's make the angle a little bit lower. Let's go 20 degrees. Now this star is taking on the shape of that model that's below it, that dome. It's following that curve. It's like if I went out to my garage with a bed sheet, and I took that bed sheet and I draped it over my car. The sheet, being one component, is going to drape over the car, the second component that's underneath it, and it's going to take on the shape of that car. It's not going to hold any rigidity to it. It's just going to conform to what's underneath it. That's the add combine mode. When we add one thing to another, it's going to just take on whatever shape's underneath, and it's going to sit on top of it. Now, if I subtract that star from that dome, it's going to concave, and it's going to concave into that star, and it's going to subtract that shape from the model that's underneath it, the dome. If I merge the two together, the star is going to maintain its rigidity, and it's just going to sink itself into the dome. It's in there, but it's buried down below. It's merged in there, and the star doesn't have that much height, so the dome is actually covering the star. It doesn't have that much height, and so it's kind of buried in there. I would have to give the star lots and lots of base height so that it appears above, or kind of above the the dome, depending on how tall the dome is and everything. And in this case, let me get my example going on here. I'm going to give this a 0.75 base height and click apply. And this is going to put straight meat under that star, and it's going to push it up and everything. And when it pushes up, you can just see the peak of that star just poking through right here. If I give it some more base height, let's go 1 inch and click apply. It's going to go up another 1/4 of an inch from where it's at. So it's going to poke up even more through that, dome that's underneath. And where the dome curves, if I turn this to its side, the star is maintaining, in this case, now it's maintaining its rigidity. It's not flowing with the dome. So the higher parts of the dome is the thinner part of the star, and the lower parts of the dome is the wider parts of the star, because that dome is now curving down while that star is maintaining its rigidity. So we are trying to combine all of these models that we're going to be creating from these vectors in a way that they just blend, they sit how they're supposed to sit, and all that wonderful stuff. Well, if I needed these two objects to work independently of one another and not combine or merge high or low or anything with anything underneath them, if I needed them to be independent of one another, then I'm going to create a different level. And I did a good explanation of this towards the very end of part 1. And let's go ahead and delete the 2 components that we're fooling around with here in the middle and get back to our parts. And then I'm going to show you how and why we created this level 2 when we were last week. So let's get rid of all this stuff. So last week we had these outer circle perimeters here. This banner here, this banner with the kind of wreath inside of it on this side, the banner below, and the wreath on side of it on this side. Now, currently right now, those items, the wreath leaves and those banner kind of circle segments, they're currently sitting on that base foundation, and that base has a slight 10-degree slight arch to it. So all of those parts have a slight arch to them. However, if I zoom in, these 2 parts, the leaf area and this part of this circle segment, those 2 items are touching each other, and they are combining in a different manner. They're actually merging together instead of merging with that base that's underneath. They're sitting on top of the base, but they're merging with each other. So if you look at the level 2 that I have over here on the left, both the components, the leaves, which are red now, and that circle banner, which is red now, those 2 items have a combined mode of merge. They're merging with one another. And the level has a combined mode of add. And that level is adding on top of level 1. Level 1 is that foundation, that concrete foundation. So those are adding, they're taking on that shape of that 10-degree base. However, the 2 models are merging together independently in their own level. Okay? Now, as we continue on with building our next shapes and things, we will have to continue adding more and more levels, because other shapes are going to have to interact together a certain way. And we can't just throw everything all on one level. If I threw everything on one level, I want you to watch this now. If I took the outer circle and drug it down, my mouse has been acting crazy today, but let me drag it down to level 1 here. And if I took that, just that alone, it's set to merge. So what's it doing? You see this green ribbon here? It is merging with that foundation. It's inside of it, right? It's merging with that foundation and all. So it's buried, right? We can't have it merging with that foundation. We need it sitting on top of that foundation. But if I have this component, which is the feathers, or the leaves, not feathers, sorry, the wreath leaves, if I have that down there, they're going to merge with that base as well. They're gone, right? They're in there. They're merging properly, but they're all merging underneath the surface. We need them sitting on top. We need them adding to the model that's below. So those two items get put on a different level so they can merge and blend together like they want, so they can be harmonious and merge. But that level as a whole sits on top of the level below it, our base, and that level has a merge, or not a merge, but a combined mode of add. It sits on top. So that's why those two items are on their own level at this point. And I'm going to put them back on that level. So that they interact well with one another. Okay? All right, so there's our parts. Everything's sitting proper like they should. Now, last week when we created the parts, these circular ribbons, I made them 1/8 of an inch tall. Now, when I was talking to you guys and girls and everything, I could make these components as thick and as thin. I can make their height, their shape height, and their base height however thick and thin I want. But what I have to mentally be aware of is I'm going to have lots of shapes stacked on top of shapes by the time this is all said and done. And what my goal is to make sure that my parts are not too thick independently, that they're not too thick, that when I stack them on top of each other, that they create this big, humongous, thick model. It has to be able to still fit in between, or in my board that I'm carving, right? Whether it be a 3/4 inch board, 1.5 inch board, 1.25 inch, and all that stuff. I need to have enough wood. And let's say that when this model was all built and complete, and let's say that by the time it got all done, it was 2.5 inches thick. The model, from the bottom of the model to the tippy top of the highest component, let's say it was 2.5 inches thick. And let's say that my board, my project board, was 1.5 inches thick. Well, the software is going to give me an error that my model exceeds the thickness of my material. But now I'm going to be forced to flatten my model to reduce the height of the model, the overall model, to fit in my board. And when I do, it's going to flatten out all of that detail. So I've lost all that nice detail. It's flattened out. It's gone, So what I'm doing is I'm building the models in small components. So by the time it's all done, I can increase the size if I want to explode the detail if I want. I want to avoid having to flatten the model. I want to avoid having to decrease it. So my component for my foundation had let's come over here to the side. It had a base height of 1/4 inch. The shape height from the very top ledge to the top ledge, the shape height, had a 10-degree arc to it. So just a very subtle arc. I just wanted a nice little curve. Okay? So overall, that component, that base component, if I go to the properties of it, it has an overall height, the base does, of 1/2 inch from the very bottom of that model to the absolute tip top to the center of the curve. It is currently 0.5733 inches tall, right? And then I've got the other part sitting on top. That's another 1/8 inch sitting on top of that. And then I'm going to be building more and more and more. So that's why the numbers might seem small, like 1/8 inch thick or 1/16 inch or this or that. But it's being done purposely, so that we can have a model that has very good detail that fits in within a reasonable thickness piece of material, that we don't have to size too dramatically to lose that detail and stuff. All right, let's see here. And thanks for everybody that's coming in and everything. It's great to see you all. All right. So now, catching back up to where we are here, we have 2 levels, our base foundation, and then we have our upper level, which is the outer circle and these kind of wreath leaves. Now, we're going to split the view again, and we're going to start working on our next parts. Now, the next part I want to create is going to be the most obvious part. It's going to be the star. So this vector outline of the star here, I want to build that shape up. And on the star, it's going to, when I create the shape, it's going to have a base height. It's going to be a curved profile. I like a little curve to the star. I'm going to use a 15 degrees this time. I used 10 on the foundation, but now I want a little bit more of a curve. So it's going to be 15 degrees, and it's going to have a base height of I'm going to go 3/16. Now, why am I going to go 3/16? What is my reasoning for that? Well, my ring here is 1/8 of an inch tall. Okay, these ring parts from the bottom to the top here is 1/8 of an inch. I want my star to stand a little proud when it gets formed, when that star gets formed in here. I want it to stand a little proud of this outer ring. And I'm going to have it stand proud by 1/16 of an inch. So this is 1/8. My star is going to be 3/16, and that'll give me that little 1/16 of an inch lip. So let's go over here and let's create a base height of 0.1875. No limit on that 15-degree curve. I don't want to flatten it out or anything. It's going to be an add combine mode. And we'll see what happens over here, and I'll show you about add and merge in just a second. But we're going to click apply. Let's give it a name. This is going to be our star. And we're going to click apply. And that's going to build up that star model. And because it's being formed or created in level 2, level 2 is adding on top of level 1, so it's going to sit on top of that foundation. But I still have that star set to, and give me just a moment. I still have that star set to add. So I want to show you the, let me click apply again, and let me regenerate that. I want to show you what happens when 2 side walls touch each other. So right now, if you can see my hands, let's imagine that this is the side of one of those outer rings. When that star comes up and rubs that sidewall, it's almost like it pushes up some material. It's like it raises up and it's almost like it pushes up some material. And you'll get these little fibers on the edge of the model where it's kind of pushed up. And that's because the two parts aren't actually together. They're not merging or anything like that. They're side by side, but that star is actually pushing up some material. So let's have it create that. And we're going to zoom in to the edge of the star here. Give me just a second. We'll get it here in a moment. And then, hey, Steve Civil, how you doing? All right, let's see. All right, here it comes. Okay, now, when that star comes up, I'm going to try to zoom in and everything. And I wish I could get the quality much better, the resolution much better and everything here. But can you see how this is dark here and then this is kind of light right here? Well, this right here on the side is actually part of this component. It actually pushed the end of that component up and it's kind of, you know, pushing up. I wish that I could make this disappear and keep that the way it is, you know, when the two parts are together, but the moment this disappears, it all goes back to normal. But it's literally pushing that material up and it's creating these kind of fibers because of the way it's rubbing. You know, rubbing might be all right in racing, but not here. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to change the combine mode so that the star merges properly with the outer ring. So those edges that are touching merge properly so that it doesn't create that kind of pushed up fiber. Now, this isn't really that bad on the grand scale of things, but on some models, when it does that, when it pushes up, it creates these little splinters of wood and everything. And when those splinters of wood are sticking up, then your bit's trying to carve those splinters of wood. It's trying to carve those little bitty fibers and everything. And it's not good. Not good with the model. Now, let's come back. Bear with me. My mouse is acting screwy today. So now our models are let's close this for a second. Our three components are now merging with one another. And let me turn off the shading here. Shadow shading, turn that off. So now the components are all merging together and everything. So they're kind of, this ribbon now, this round ribbon is going into the star. It's not, let me zoom in. It's not jacking it up anymore. It's kind of going into it now. It's merged with it and everything. All right. Let's turn the shadow shading back on. The shadow shading just, you know, it kind of gives a little bit of dimensional detail and everything and stuff. All right. So everything is doing well. Let's look over here. I want to try to simulate. Okay. I want you to see this. This will be able to simulate much better. I'm going to turn this around to the leaves. Give me just a second here. Let me get around to it. My my mouse is going crazy today. Okay. Oops. Let me get over there. Spin. All right. You see these spikes right here? Okay. Let me. Whoop, I don't know where I'm going. These spikes right here. That's the leaf. That's the end of the leaf that got pushed up because the star is in an add mode. And I changed it back to add mode just to show what I was trying to explain over here. This gives a little bit better view. It pushes those edges up, you know, because it's not blending. It's not merging properly, right? But when we change that combine mode to merge with that ribbon and those leaves to merge together, those leaves are no longer going to get pushed up. They're just going to blend in. Okay, so now they blend in to that model. Okay, so how these things interact with one another, it's important. It's important that you know, that we make sure they merge, they add, they subtract, or whatever properly. Okay, now I'm still in level 2. I'm going to remain in level 2 until it's time for me to change to another level. I won't know it's time for me to change to another level until something else doesn't blend correctly, and I need to take those items and put them on their own level so they work properly. Okay? Yeah. Model overlaps, Brooks Martin. That's basically your component overlaps, right? That's in a sense, it's that where they overlap, those overlap points, it's pushing. When that model gets raised up to its thickness, it's pushing that edge up, creating that spike and everything. So where those models interact or overlap is another term for it. That's good. All right. So now I'm going to stay in level 2 for my next components until level 2 is no longer conducive for me. Okay. All right. So now my next components that I'm going to make here, we're going to do the ribbons for the deputy, sheriff. We'll do those next. So I'm going to select these vectors. And let's there we go. 1, 2, bear with me, buckle your shoe. 3, 4. Up here, let me select not the D yet. We're not ready for deputy yet. Okay, make sure that those ribbons are selected. Now the ribbons are going to sit on top of the star, and they're going to have some, they're going to flow with the curve and all that stuff. So we're going to come in and create a shape height. I am going to, for the ribbon, I don't want the ribbon to be too bubbly, too domed or anything like that. And 15 degrees, not too domed. That's not too bubbly. Pillow topish and all that stuff. But I'm going to go back to 10 degrees on there. I did 15 because I wanted just a little bit more curvature on the star itself. You know, I wanted a little bit more curvature there and everything. But the ribbons that are going to sit on top of the star, they can go back down to 10 degrees. They will have a curved profile. I do want them to have a curved profile. I don't want them to be just flat. I just want a slight curve. And on the base height, I'm only going to go a 1/16 of an inch. And no limit on the little 10-degree curve. I'm going to add, that ribbon's going to sit on top of that star. I'm going to add it to the star. This is going to be my ribbons. Banners. Banners is a better word. I'm going to use my banners. I'm going to click apply. Okay. So if we look at this, we have our banners. Now you can make your banners however thick, however thin, however all of that stuff that you want. I only went a 1/16 of an inch because I don't need them standing up too proud. If when it's all said and done and I make all my components and I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to give this a little bit more height. I'm going to give this a little bit more height. I'm going to give this a little bit more height. I can go back into those individual component properties and I can adjust that height and make them a little thicker, this or that, you know, whatever I want to adjust. But for right now, I'm just going to work with these, the small number here. Now I'm going to click on Start a New Component. And that will lock in those two banners. And then I'm going to do the text. So let's do the text for deputy here. And sheriff. And county. Nope. I'm going to leave county. County, I'll make those a separate component. I'll do county on a separate component. County, and then the text up here, which is says county also. I'll change that name. We'll make this. We'll change that letter too. But, oh dadgummit. Let me go back and select my text again. My mouse, it's time for it to be replaced. It is acting goofy as all be it today. It's been acting goofy with last couple days. Okay, so for the text, I want the text to, it's kind of two choices for me. I either want the text to be flat, or I want the text to have a small curvature to it. Now I'm going to stick with, because a 10-degree curve is very small. It's a small curve. I'm going to stick with that 10-degree curve for this text. And the text, how tall, I want the text sitting on top of the ribbon. I'm going to have it sit on top of the ribbon by a 1/16 of an inch. We'll do that. And this will be our text set 1. Okay, let's get this fully in here. Turn it just a little bit so everybody can see. Now, if I want the text to have more height, I can give it some more height, build it up, whatever you want to do. But a 1/16 of an inch, I'm just kind of building that up to there. Okay, so overall from the bottom where the star is up to the very top of the text, it's going to be 1/16 and a 1/16, 1/16 for the ribbon, 1/16 for the text, for a total of an 1/8 of an inch. Okay, because I might want this star to fit in a 3/4 inch board. Now, my board is set up in this job for 1.5 inches, but I might want to carve it out of a 3/4 inch board, an 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch. You know, I've only got so many 1/8s to go, right? And you have to remember my foundation is already 0.533, right? A little over 1/2 inch. So we're getting up there. Now, luckily, the text is kind of the, not quite, but almost the highest point of this model. Now, we're going to start a new component. Now, before I create any more models, I'm going to add a draft to some of my components here. Now, a draft, if we look at the text here, the walls of the text are straight up and down. Okay? Now, technically, a draft, which is this icon here, the fourth row down, third icon from the left, add draft to visible model. Now, technically, a draft is generally used when pouring a concrete foundation, in mold injections and things like that. And basically, it's a slight angle to the edges so that when, especially in injection molding and all, so when these parts get created, when that mold opens, they fall right out, you know? There's just a slight angle to the edges instead of being straight up and down where they could actually lock with each other to where it's hard to get that part out of that mold kind of thing. It's called a draft. And when we have, you know, and sometimes in slabs and stairs, on slabs you add a draft to that that concrete step or whatever, and things and everything. So we are adding a draft to the visible model. Now, when we hover over the tool, the literal wording says create a component from the visible model. Create a component, so a brand new component, from the visible model, the model that's currently visible, and with a draft added to that model, right? So knowing that that I don't want to create a draft on my entire model, I only want to create a draft on certain components, I'm only going to make those components visible, and all the other components are going to get turned off. Because it's going to create a brand new model with a draft on the visible component. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the foundation. I'm going to turn off my outer circles. I'm going to turn off the star. I'm going to turn off the banners. And the only thing that's going to be left on is the text. Let's get this into full view. So the only thing visible right now is going to be my text. That's the visible model. Okay? Now I'm going to zoom in on Sheriff just so we can see the letters and what happens when we create the draft. But it's going to do it to Deputy up above and Sheriff, the visible model. So we're going to come in, and on that create a draft, my drafts normally don't go past 30 degrees. Like a 30-degree angle, which is a steep angle in a sense. My drafts will either be a 15-degree draft, a 22.5-degree draft, a 30-degree draft, and that's kind of where I stop. I could go 45 and blah, 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 you know, and all that stuff depending on what I want, but all I want is when my bit is carving, let's imagine that this here is the edge of my letters. When my bit comes, I don't want it to kind of get to the edge and then having to raise, you know, kind of stop to raise up to carve that model. That's all runtime. I want that bit to be able to ramp up on that draft. I want it to be able to drive up that ramp and then over the edge. So it doesn't have to decelerate very much when it's creating that component. You know, instead of dropping off the ledge on a straight edge, instead of dropping off the ledge, you know, and slowing down to pick up to go there kind of thing, you know, when it's creating that 3D model, I want it to be able to just kind of ramp, you know, so it doesn't have to decelerate that much. So adding the draft, one, gives me a little bit of edge meat, but it also kind of helps me with doing the little things that I can do. And in the grand scheme of things, it is little things that we're doing to optimize runtime. Okay? So in this case, I'm going to go with a 15-degree draft, and I'm going to click apply. All right. Now, let me see if, what kind of preview simulation coordinator. I got that, yeah. It's, the edge detail here is brutal right now. And everything. The pixelation is killing me. Let me close this real quick. Let me make sure that my I'm extremely high. Okay. Just want to make sure. All right. Let's go in and take a look at that. Let's zoom back into Sheriff here. All right. Now I'm going to edit, undo, create component. I'm going to turn that component off so you can see the edge. Watch it disappear. Okay. All right. Now let's do a little bit more extreme draft so you can see. I'm going to go 22 degrees. Watch the edges as they form. Okay. So it kind of brings out that edge. Now it looks all pixelated and everything, but it's created a nice little angle there. So I can kind of ramp up and all. So 22 I'm going to stick with on this one. I'll stick with 22 on the letters. And now if we look at the component tree, in level 2, it's created a new model with a 22-degree draft. Meaning my original model, the text set 1 there, is no longer required to be visible because it recreated that model and added a draft to it. So I can turn that off. Now, do I delete it? I do not delete any of my originals in my components and stuff because I may need to step back and alter something, and I want to be able to step back to that original, not the model with the draft. I want to be able to go back to the original. Maybe I want to add a 30-degree draft instead of 22-degree. And, maybe I want to add a 45-degree draft. Whatever the case may be, I want to be able to step back. So I turn off the visibility of the model that I don't need, but it doesn't get deleted. It stays, the component. Okay? So now we have this model here. Now, currently, by default, when you create a model with a draft, it automatically sets it to a merge. Merge. I don't want it to merge with my ribbons. What's going to happen if it merges with the ribbons? It's going to sync into the ribbons, the banners, right? So if I turn my banners on and my sheriff is set to merge, it's going to be inside the banner, right? So that's the default. I need to just go in and change it back to add. I need it sitting on top of the banners, okay? Now, my banners, I'm going to turn off the text now, and I'm going to turn the banners on because I would like the edges of my banners to have a little bit of draft to them as well. So right now, the only two visible models are the banners. And I'm going to go into create a draft. I'll stick with 22. And I'm going to create that 22-degree draft angle. There. All right, just to give those edges a little bit of, and 22 is not, it's still steep, right? You know, it's not that steep, but it's just enough that it gives it a little bit of an angle so I can just my bit's kind of just rolling up on it and everything. Now, just to show you an extreme, let's say if I went with a 45-degree draft just for visualization for a moment. Here, watch, it's going to come out at a 45-degree draft angle. Okay, so a big draft angle. And you see it blends them things together and stuff. Let's zoom in. You see that big angle, right? I don't want to be that extreme, right? I just want to go 22. And I'm happy with that. 22 and a half, that's fine. 22 is fine. All right, so watch the 22 come back. There we go. Good. All right. Now, again, I have a model with a 22-degree draft that's, again, set to default. I'm going to rename this to banners. Instead of the word model, I'm going to change banners with 22-degree draft. And I'm going to change that to a combined mode of add. I'm going to turn off the original banners. I'm going to turn on my text with the draft and rename that. Always stay on top of your naming and everything. This is my text set 1 with the draft. And I'm calling it my text set 1. That's going to be my first set of text. Then state of Texas will be probably third. My county. We'll change one of the counties to something. But county is going to, that's going to be, probably text set 2. I'm just going to keep them separate instead of doing them all at once because they're on different levels and stuff. Okay. All right, wonderful. So now we have let's turn our text set back on. All right. So that's how everything looks. Really sharp. Really, really sharp. All right. We're going to go star back on. This model with component draft, I didn't name it. I didn't rename it in the video 1. So let's do that now to keep everything on top of it. This was the wreath, outer wreath with 22-degree draft. And then our outer circle. And then our base. So we turn all that back on. All right. So here's this. Now, in the badge here, let me see if I can, give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds, 2 seconds, 2 seconds. Wait for it. I'm going to pull it on the screen. It should open up. Okay. So if we kind of look at the sample badge here, this area, these 4 quadrants, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then even down here under this banner, it's cut through. It's removed. Gone. Right? And so that is these components here. So this, down under here, and this. Now currently right now, they're not built up. They're not built up. They're not removed. They're not anything. Okay? They're nothing right now. Now you have a choice on your models. You can either leave it as is to where there's still wood there, but it's lower than the star and it's lower than the ring, just like it is right now. So it's kind of giving that illusion of, it's levels and dimensions and stuff. Or you can remove it, right? So in this case, we're going to remove it. And we're going to select this vector. Hold down that shift key and select this vector. This vector. This vector down here. And this one over here. And in Vectric Aspire, we have a tool that we can use to remove parts of a model from either outside of a selected vector or inside of a selected vector. Okay? So we have a tool to remove outside or inside. In this case, we are going to be clearing the parts of the selected component inside the vectors that we have selected, okay? So now it needs to know, when we look at this, here's what it says. Clear the area of the selected component inside the selected vectors. So we have the vectors selected. We also need to select the component from which that material is getting removed. And in our case, it's the foundation. It's the base. So we're going to hold down our shift key and we're going to select our base. So it's also selected. And we're going to come up and click that button to remove the material from within the vectors from that. Okay. All right. So now we're here. Okay. Okie dokie. All right. Now, as I said, you could choose to keep it. You could choose to remove it, whatever. The customer that inspired me on making this kind of class and everything, as a class we did with him, he kept his material. He just reduced it down like it was. But he built up this bottom one slightly under the banner so he could put in badge numbers and things like that in there, you know, V-carve numbers and stuff and all, which was a good idea, right? All right, so there's that so far. Okay, cool beans. All right, now the next component, let's split this up. The next component we're going to build is the center here. Or we could do the text at the top and the bottom. Either one, pick and choose, whatever you want to do. Matter of fact, I'll pick and choose here. We're going to do the text. Let's get the text done. So we'll do county. Let's change this county down here. This county. Let's change this to a date. Let's say we're doing a retirement kind of thing, right? Whatever the case may be. And so we'll have a date from here to here kind of thing, right? So what I want to do is I want to make sure that the date that I put in there follows the curve. So I'll go ahead, let's delete the text. So I'm going to hit delete, select that and hit delete. Now I'm going to take my arc here, which is this part here. And I have two choices on this. One, I could just go into my drawing tab. I could grab the draw arc tool. I could find the center of my left side of my that bottom quadrant. I could come over and drag the line over to the center of the right side. And then I could pull that arc down and visualize kind of a center, a natural curve there where it looks somewhat even, you know, top and bottom. And I could use that. Depends on, you know, what I want to do, right? That's no problem there. But if I want to be exact, if I want to be like perfectly centered in there, and I want to kind of be pretty much dead on kind of thing, then I'm going to take a measurement and I'm going to use one of my existing vectors to offset. So here's what I mean by that. Let's come out of here and close this tool. I'm going to take a vertical measurement down the center of my badge from the top here to the bottom line. And that measurement is 1.7854. Now, I'm going to write that down. I'm going to write that down. So, I'm going to take a piece of paper. I'm going to go 1.7854. And then I'm going to go into, I'm going to close this. I'm going to delete that out of my way. And I'm going to go into that vector. I'm going to go to node editing mode. Node editing mode. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to find the corner of my arc and I'm going to cut the vector there on this bottom arc. And I'm going to come over here and cut the vector here. Now, in a second, I'm going to show you how to clean up those points just as an added bonus. All right, so in here, I'm going to take this vector that's here. And when I create this offset, I don't want to kind of duplicate the, not a problem, but all these nodes. Because if I were carving these nodes in a profile cut fashion, not a 3D model cut, if I were carving these nodes, these are points. Point A to point B to point C to point D. So my router bit would be, on my G code, I would have thousands of lines of G code where the G code is telling it to go from this point to this point, this point to this point, this point to this point, on and on and on and on and on. And every one of those points and everything is a line of G code. Those coordinates go from here to 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 here. Those points. It doesn't skip past them. Every one of those nodes is a line of G code, right? And I have a tool over here called a curve fit tool that will redraw that curve and try to reduce some of those nodes. Now, in this case, it's going to be a circular arc. Okay. I've got a tolerance set of 10,000ths of an inch. And I don't want to keep sharp. There's no sharp corners, right? I want to replace the selected vector. So when I do that, it's going to replace that vector with 3 points. 1, my center point, and my end point. Point A to B, B to C, right? All right, so the 3 points of an arc. Got rid of all those nodes. So there's going to come times when we have millions of nodes and all that we're doing carving, V carving, or profile cuts, or pocket cuts, or whatever the case may be, and that bit's going on. Your G code is like millions of lines long, and you can see the jerkiness in your router because it's going from point A to point B, depending on how fast or slow you're moving. But we want a nice transition. Go from here to here and from here to here, right? All right. So now that I have this nice clean vector here, I'm going to offset it inward by 1.7854 divided by 2 in half, right? Divided by 2 equals 0.8927, and I'm going to click offset. And that is going to create my center line for my text to follow. Okie dokie. Okie dokie, tokie dokie. All right, now if I wanted to, I'm not going to do this for everything and all that happy jazz and stuff, but if I wanted to, I could come in to the corner here and cut the vector on the left side or the right side of this vector. I would not do that normally because I'm using these vectors to create components. I'm not carving on them or anything. But if I were V carving this, I would want to go in and clean up. And I'm going to take this vector here just like we did a moment ago. And I'm going to go to the curve fit tool, circular arc, that's what it is, 10,000ths tolerance, preview to get rid of those nodes. I'm going to go to this left vector Oops. Give me a second. I clicked on my model and made it all visible. Let me turn off the main star for a minute. I'm going to go to this left vector here, and it's going to be a straight line, right? Point A to B. Come over here to this vector. It's going to be a straight line, point A to B. And now I can connect those four vectors back together. I can join them, those four vectors, into one closed vector. So now as a whole, I have, in node editing, I have these nice clean points, right? Can you see that? Let's maximize this up on the screen. So I have, point A to B, B to C, point A to B, point A to B, B to C, point A to B, nice and clean, all instead of all those, instead of this, right? Right. All right. That was just a little lesson, and we're not going to go through and clean all those up because we're building components off this, okay? All right. Now, for this vector here, I'm going to use that vector to create my dates. Let's say that this deputy was active from, let's say he was active from 1985 to 2023. Old guy, gotta retire, right? Well, not that old, but he's been at the job for quite some time. He's been on the job for, let's see, if I'm 40, I was born in 74 and I'm 48 years old. That's 85. 11, so he's been on the job for 38 years, right? Somewhere around there. Okay, I think I did the math right. All right, now I'm going to have the text to be an Arial text is fine. I'm going to have that text selected. You can barely see it. It's written up here. I'm going to select this vector curve here, and I'm going to go to text on a curve, and I'm going to scale it to fit that curve. Now I want to be on the curve. I want it to be split. I want to scale it down. Let's go 72. Ooh, let's try 75. I'm happy with that. I'm not going to argue with that at all. And I want to be in the middle of the curve, and I want the text to flow with the curve. So that's good. So now that I have that, I have a choice. I can delete that vector that I just created. I could keep it in the design, put it on another layer because I'm using it for layout, right? If I have to redo the dates or if I have other dates that I want to do, I might not want to have to create that line every single time. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to move that line to a new layer. And I'm going to call this my date curve vector. I'll even make it a, like a red or something, blue, green, whatever, so that, I can see it. But I want to come in here and turn the visibility off because I don't need it right now, right? Okay. All right, so county would be the actual name of the county. We're just going to leave the word county there. And then our date, let's select that. And let's go in and create the shape. Now, if you have questions, Kool-Aid, give me a second. I'll answer your question. And I'll go through in just a second, and I'll answer some other questions and all. The 1985 to 2023 in the word county above, we're going to go with create a shape. It's going to be a small curve with that 10 degree curve, a curved profile. Same, I'm still going to go 1/16 of an inch. Now, I could decide, hey, you know, since this is at a lower level, you know, than where the banner text is, maybe I can make this text a little bit higher. You know, whatever your thinking is, you can do whatever you want. I'm going to stick to the 1/16 of an inch. For the height, we're going to be adding it to there. And this is going to be my set text to. Text set to. Let's stand by a second. Text set to. And I'm going to click apply. Let that build up, and let's split the view when it's done. Let's split the view so we can see what we've got here. So we got the word county and we've got the date down there. Now our county and date doesn't have the draft on it yet, right? We just created it. Doesn't have the draft, so we're going to close our create shape tool for a moment. Now let's take a quick second for a pause and let's answer. We got 2 questions up. Number 1, Rodney says, Laney, I could use more classes like this. Learning a lot. Thanks, Laney. Cool. Appreciate you. Thank you. Give me a thumbs up if you're learning this. It really helps the algorithm. Thumbs up on the video. Click the like button on the video at the end and everything. Kool-Aid, Laney, on the banner ends, can you merge them together so there's not a gap in between them? So on the banner ends, could I merge them together so there's not a gap between them? Yes, I could. I could create more of a draft on here. I could redraw the shapes and everything. I could redraw the shapes and stuff so it kind of flows where this flows to here. And this curve is this bottom curve where it flows into there. I could redraw that, but for the illusion of the banner wrapping under itself, kind of need that little bit of space. For the optical delusion of it wrapping under itself. Now, I could make this part of the banner slightly higher than this, so it does look like it's wrapping under and around, right? I could create 3 level heights where it does look like it levels around. I could add more of a draft to these 2 components so they blend together a little bit more and things, and I could add a little bit more of a draft so that blends together. So yes, Kool-Aid, there's a lot of things that we could do if we wanted that to merge together or to take on a different look in everything. And it might look better, you know, with this banner being slightly higher, then this banner, and then this banner, right? 3 levels, so it kind of does look more like it's wrapping under each other and all that stuff in that, you know, illusion and stuff and all. So what we want to make sure of, but though, is that we don't, when we're looking at it straight on, because it's going to hang on a wall, right? What we don't want to do is if we merge them together, we don't want to lose that division in between the parts. We don't want to lose that division there of the 3 separate folds. All right, so just keep that in mind, but yes, you could. So great question. All right, now really quickly before I go into anything else, I'm going to come in and turn off my other components. Wait for my mouse to catch up. I want my text set to be visible. And I'm going to, let's turn off this one. And I'm going to create a draft, 22-degree draft on that top text and that lower dates. Okay. So we create that draft, and then my component, again, new component was created. I'm going to change the combine mode, the default of merge. It defaults to merge. I'm going to change it back to add. I'm going to change the name. And I'm just going to get rid of the word model and just put the text set to. And then I can turn off the original. Again, I don't delete the original. I don't delete the original in case I need to backtrack for whatever reason. All right, so we got our banner. We've got our text set 1. Now, the banner here, the banner is below the text, right? The banner is the bottom layer here. So let's be proper, and let's put that foundation up, right? Banner underneath text set 1 there. All right, there we go. And we're going to turn on the star, the outer wreath, the outer circle, and our base again. Okay, cool beans. We're almost there, guys. Stick with me. We've been at it for an hour and 15 minutes. And we just got a little bit more to go. We're not too far off. Now, I want to start working on this centerpiece here. And before I start working on the centerpiece, I need to correct a vector issue. Number one is the star vector that I created earlier to show an example of add. I want to get rid of that. It's not part of the design. Number two, this star here is currently connected to the leaves. Don't want that. Okay, so I need to go into node editing mode, and I need to cut the vector in these locations to separate the star from the the other part. And so I got to go over to the other side, down here at the bottom where it's connected. Need to cut that free. Get in as close as you can. Try to get to that corner node. Zoom, 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 zoom. Get to that corner node. Cut the vector. Same thing over here. Cut the vector. Now, we just because we cut them, don't leave that area yet. We got to close them off and all, or else we got open vectors now and stuff. What I'm doing is I'm zooming out for a minute to show you that, this is a 5-pointed star, and it has all of these nodes, right? If you wanted to redraw that star, you have a star tool in your drawing tools. You can redraw that 5-point star. Make sure that your inner radius is 38.2. That top ledge is flat straight across. So that's a 38.2 inner radius. Always. Your constitutional stars, 38.2 inner radius. That's your magic number. But I could come in here and I could see if I can do this without my mouse screwing up on me. My mouse button's damaged. But I could bring this star out and recreate that new star and delete the old vectors, right? Because on this new star, right, that I just drew, that new star in node editing mode, we have point, 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 point. We don't have all those things. So if you wanted to, if we were going through and cleaning up vectors and blah, 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 and you needed to redraw those shapes, we could use that curve fit tool that we used earlier on the banners. We could redraw the shape if it's a, in this case, it's a star. It's easy to duplicate and replicate and stuff. Even these inner triangles are easy to replicate and everything, but there's no issue with them. They already have their, small points, so we don't need to do anything with those, right? So whatever you want to do. Now, again, this really doesn't make that big of a difference when I'm building models off of, but it could affect the model because every one of those points, the shape is getting created off of them, right? That shape, right? And so instead of a nice straight smooth line, of the shape being built up, I'm getting all these edges, all these nodes are getting built up into a 3D model. That could be a problem for me, right? And so that could be one of the main reasons why I don't have smooth edges when I'm talking about my edges and all that stuff. Probably is, right? But I'm not going to backtrack right now and clean everything up. But hey, we might. Who knows? I don't know. But for right now, I've redrawn this star. And what I'm going to do is, let's get out of node editing mode. I'm going to delete the bad vectors. Bear with me a moment. My mouse is being crazy. Come on, mouse. Okay. All right, so that should be now just the star there. Okay. Now, I don't want the star points and these points over here, intercolliding and everything. So I'm going to sacrifice a little point of my star. I'm going to go into node editing. And I'm going to take this and I'm simply going to just drag it back a little bit. Just so I can take this vector and this vector and join it with a straight line to reconnect it. And I just don't want them touching or overlapping and all. So all I did was just, it's so insignificant. It's so small. It's not gonna affect the star and all that stuff, but I'm just literally bringing this back, following a path, so that I can take this vector and join it with a straight line to close it off and all that stuff. Now, again, these are those leaves. If I wanted to, I could redraw the curve fit, on those leaves and everything. I could come into the curve fit tool. I could say that I want this to be Bezier curves because it's kind of a combination of arcs and curves and things. A 10,000ths of an inch tolerance, and I could click preview and it will go through and redraw those leaves, getting rid of all those nodes. And if I close this tool and come back to node editing, we now have a little bit more clean model to work with, right? So the vector that I purchased off of Etsy had all those nodes and issues and everything. And they could all be going through and cleaned up using the curve fit tool, just redrawn basically before you start modeling. You could do that. Okay. All right, so my next shape is going to be this circle here, and then these inner banners for where State of in Texas is. And I'm going to make the executive decision that I'm going to redraw the circles and get rid of the bad ones and the good. I could just do the curve fit, and these are circular arcs, and I could just, click on that and recreate it. But I have some anomalies over here, right? Some nodes over here that cause the circle to not be quite as round. So I'm just going to redraw the circles. So I'm going to take my circle tool. Well, first of all, if I look at the very bottom right corner here, or if I go to the size tool the size of this is about 5.4507. That's the diameter, right? 4.5407. I'll probably round that down. But I can create a new circle with a diameter 4.54. I'll come right here in the center and click. Hold on a second. 5.4, not 4.5. Let me undo that. Control Z. Let's do that one more time. It's 5.4. 5.45. Come over here and click. Let's maximize this up so you guys and girls can see what's going on. I'm going to just find the center here and click. And notice, God help us all, that we're just slightly off center. That's all right. I'm going to drag this down and connect it with that. Let's get it aligned to the center to put it on top. Now, Laney, how do we know which one's the good one, which one's the bad one when we were, when we're deleting it, right? Because you didn't delete, one before you stacked it on top of the other. Well, it's a great question. No, I'm just kidding. The new circle's on top. So when I select this object here, let me click on it. When I select this object, I actually just selected the top one. And if I select both of them, kind of that right mouse click, drag the box from right to left so they're both selected, and I hold the shift key and I deselect the top one, I can just hit delete to get rid of the one underneath it so that my top one remains. Now, to verify that's my top one, if I go into node editing mode, I should only have the 4 nodes, right? Right, okay. All right, let's go over here and let's see what size this circle is. This circle has a size of 8.1575. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go 8.5175. Is that right? 8.5175. Create. I don't think that's right. 8.1575, ladies and gentlemen. Let's try that again. 8.1575. Create. And then I'm going to select that circle. I'm going to select this circle and I'm going to align the two to the center of one another. While they're both selected, I can hold down the shift key and deselect the top one and hit delete to get rid of the one underneath it. If you want to verify, you can go into node editing mode and it should only be the one with 4 nodes, right? Okay. Now, here, if I was going to clean these up and everything, curve fit tool, we're going to go arcs, circular arcs, keep sharp corners, and replace vectors and click this one. Click. Okay. All right. Good enough. Anyway, that's it. That's all the cleaning up I'm doing there. All right. I just lied to you. One more time. Let's grab all of this. We're going to hold down the shift key and we're going to turn off the star. We're going to turn off the circle and we are going to turn off this outer boundary because I cleaned that up earlier. The only thing remaining are the inside vectors and this F and S. We want that turned off too. That and that. And we're going to come to the Curve Fit tool. Ooh, Lord of mercy. Imagine if you were V-carving that. And we're going to do, this is going to be Bezier curves because it's all kinds of different curves and stuff. I do not want to keep sharp corners. And we're going to replace the vectors and we're going to click Preview. Give it a second because it's going to take a moment. Okay. We could do that multiple times to bring that down even more and more and more and more and more, but I'm not going to push it. I'm going to go just right there. I'm going to click OK. Okay. Kool-Aid, thank you very much for the super chat, my man. Super chats, ladies and gentlemen, are ways of donating to the channel to help support the things that I do here, to keep things free and to keep a roof over my head and all that wonderful stuff. Kool-Aid, appreciate your support. All right, Rodney Robert says, I did a 4-foot star for the local sheriff's department that I added steel reinforcement to eliminate the chance of warping. Do you do this as well in your large pieces? No. I have not made anything greatly large where I would need to do something like that. Not a bad idea whatsoever. But also using properly aged and dried and cured wood helps too with wood movement and stuff. And yeah, no, that's a great idea. But no, I've never needed to do that. Not saying that's great. That's perfect. You know, longevity, right? Keep up the 3D class is very cool. Learning a lot. Thanks, Laney. Thank you, Kool-Aid. Appreciate that super chat, bro. All right, let's get busy now. Let's get busy. We got to move on. All right, first things first, foundation. Let's split our view back. Foundation. So the center emblem is its own little foundation. So we're going to build that up. It's going to be in the Create Shape tool. I've got the outermost ring selected. And we're going to go a nice subtle curve. On this one, I'm actually going to bring it back up to 15 degrees on the curve. The base height, I'm going to keep it about the same base height as the banners, 1/16 of an inch. No limit. And I'm going to add, and this is going to be my center circle or emblem or whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to click Apply. We're going to create that. Cool beans. Now, we're going to take a step back for a second, and I'm going to come in here and let me see if I can bring this over on the screen again. And let me see if I can change the zoom for a moment. Okay. Now, this outer ring here and this inner ring, it's hard to tell with this, you know, band across, but that outer ring and inner ring there have a little bit of a curve to it. So it's like a little dome, like a little berm, if you will. And then the state of Texas is in a ribbon kind of sitting down in that berm. Okay? So, when we, you know, go to create this berm and everything, this berm effect and all, we're going to use a curved profile to do that. We're going to do one on the inside here and one on the outside. Now, let's create a new component, start a new component so it locks in this center dome here. And the thing about that outer ring and inner ring for the curve profile, I don't have the vectors that I need. I've got these vectors and all, but I don't have like another circle here, and I don't have another circle there to create the component, that ring, that berm ring around. So I need to create those two vectors. Now what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to come up here and I'm going to measure my distance. And let's go to my measuring tool, and I'm just going to, kind of right here in my center line, I'm just going to measure vertically from here to here just to get a number. And let's make this number a little bit smaller so everybody can see and all. And let's redo this. Okay, so 0.1182, so roughly about 1/8 of an inch. Okay, now this is important. I want this ring that I'm about to draw, this circle, and this circle that I'm about to draw to actually overlap these two rings. I want it to overlap. So if I'm at 0.1182 here, close to 1/8 of an inch, I'm going to go the 1/8. So there's an overlap. Now, let's measure down here. From here to here. 0.1175. So I'm also going to go the 1/8 there too. That's going to give me the overlap. The reason why I'm going to overlap is when I create those berms, and I'm going to create that where it looks like the state of Florida is recessed down in between those, or state of Texas is recessed below those berms and all. I want that inner ribbon to merge with the berms. So I want overlap, component overlap. So let's get rid of those two measurements. And let's maximize this up since we're creating components. We'll focus on this for right now. We're going to take this outer circle and we're going to offset inward 1/8 of an inch, 0.125. And we're going to create that offset. So there is just a slight amount of overlap, okay? We're going to do the same thing on this inner circle here. We're going to offset outward 1/8 of an inch. So there is just a small amount of overlap. All right, okie dokie, okie dokie. All right, now we are going to take the new circle that we just selected or created, and this new circle, and this circle, and this new circle, and we are going to create a shape that's going to be a curved profile, and we're going to go the full dome, 90 degrees, full dome, full dome. All right, full dome. No base height. No base height. So 0 base height. Want to come from where it's sitting on top of that foundation. I just want it to just dome right over. Okay, no base height. I don't want any straight meat underneath. So no base height, no limit. It's going to be a merge. And it's going to be merging with that foundation of that center circle. So what does that mean? That means I need to create a new level, and I need to put that center circle on its own level with all these new components so they play well together, but they still sit on the components and levels below. Okay? Because, let's split the view here. If I merge this, because I need it to merge in there, if I merge this, then it's going to merge and it's gone. Right? You don't see it. Okay? So, if I have it sit on top and everything, where the two edges come together here, wait for it, click apply. Okay. It's doing fine here, no problem there, but when I create this inner state of Texas and everything, that's where my problem is going to show up. Okay? Doing fine here, no problem, it's sitting on top, that's good, but when I create these two components, this one and this one, That's where I need those two items to merge with one another. Okay? So let's just take right now, let's start a new level. Let's take this component and drag it up. Come on now. Stop playing. My mouse, it thinks I'm clicking when I'm not. I'm clicking and holding, but it thinks I'm releasing, and I've got to go buy a new mouse. Because. Now, watch this. Remember when those two domes were merged 5 seconds ago, they were sunk down in that circle, right? You couldn't see them. Now that they're on another level and that level is adding to level 2 below, I can now change this combine mode to merge, and they will stay put sitting on top. They'll stay put. They're not going to sink down and all, because the level is how the level interacts with the level below it. The components inside of a level interact independently with each other, and this one's kind of by itself right now, and they don't interact with what's below them. It's the level that interacts with the level below. Okay? Cool beans. All right. Hey, Sylvia. Thanks for joining. Okay. We're moving along, guys. I know it's getting late. It's 9 o'clock. We're kind of working around. We want to finish this up in 2 parts, so stick with me. Here we go. We're going to now go back into our Create Shape tool. And I'm actually going to take this. This and this. And I'm actually going to, this is going to be a kind of a merge low, if you will. I want it to be reduced down a little bit so the state of Florida can stand up. So it's going to be a, I'm going to keep it, I'm going to keep it with the 10-degree kind of theme. The base height is going to be 0.0625, but I want to merge low. And what that's going to do is it's going to merge at the lowest points of the components here. And let me think there for a minute. That component that I just created, bear with me. Where did I create it? It's not there. So let me do that again. All right, one more time. Let's try that again. Curve profile, 10 degrees. Here, we're going to merge low. And I don't think I clicked apply. I saw the blue bar go across the screen, and I don't think I clicked apply on there and everything. All right. Okay, so what that did is it kept the low points, but it brought those up above the round. It did not act the way that I want it to. So I'm going to subtract that. I don't like the way that looks either. So I'm going to merge normal. It's kind of figuring out which one's which, right? Finding out what works and what doesn't. I'm going to merge normal, but I'm going to do a negative So it's down instead of up. Negative 1/16 of an inch. Okay. Now, my center ring is only a 1/16 of an inch tall. So I need to go a 32nd. 32nd. I don't want to go the full depth. I was wondering, I was like, why is the whole thing disappearing? Oh, I thought it was 1/8 of an inch. It's 16. 03125. 03125. Half of it. Click apply. I need a little meat in here. There we go. And the smoothness will take care of this. Or I could remove that. I'm actually going to remove that little piece of material right there, guys and girls. So very quickly, I'm going to take a line tool and I'm going to draw a line from here to here, spacebar to finish, a line from here to here, spacebar to finish. Those two lines are going to be on top, so I can select them. They're on top, so when I click on them, it will select them automatically because they're on top. And I'm going to join them with a straight line twice to close them off here. Now, I'm going to go into node editing mode, and I'm going to take this node and this node, and I'm going to back it into this berm, because the berm's not going to get removed, but I want it to blend. So I want to be in that berm a little bit. Okay? I want to be in that berm. And I want to make sure that I'm lined up and all that good jazz. Okay. So there and there. Let's do the other side very quickly. I'm going to take this and this, and I'm going to move it into there. I'll spread this one out. I'll go kind of up a little bit, just so there's a little bit of overlap there. And a little bit there, so there's a little bit of overlap. Now I have a vector that I can use to remove material. So I can now come into my modeling, and I can take that selected vector right there, and I can select the disk, the component, the center circle, because see what's red there? That's what that is. That's that center circle. And I can remove the component inside the vector. And of course, we're looking at the right side, working on the left, so you're not going to see anything disappear until I move over to the other side. Let's do that right now. Okay. You will see that that material is removed, but you see those fibers and everything? That's because there's still some of that component remaining there. There's still some of that component remaining there, so my rectangle wasn't quite wide enough. Let's do a really quickly an undo, and let's make the vector a little bit wider, so make sure it overlaps these two edges a little bit more. So let's go into node editing. I'm just gonna back this down a little bit there. Come on down a little bit there. I'm gonna go up and over a little bit there. It doesn't have to be, the ends don't have to be straight or anything because they're hidden inside the berms, right? So I just want to get rid of that. So let's try this again. So we select that vector, we select that component, and we remove from inside the selected vector, remove it. Okay. Still some splinters there and everything on the edge. That means that I'm just not quite over far enough. Let's do that one more time and then I'll know better on the next time. So it's all kind of, let's undo that really quickly. I'm going to back up now. Back up, Jack. I'm going to back up. Okay. Let's go to node editing mode. Let's really pull that out. Pull that out. Now I know that I'm over there. Pull that up. Pull that up. Now I know I'm over that one. I got good space there. I should be clear now. Let's go ahead and find out. Let's select the component. And clear. Clear. Now, I can see there's still going to be fibers there because those are merge fibers. There we go. And I will give me just a second. Those are merge fibers and I will clean them up in just a minute. Okay. So we'll do some smoothing and everything. Now, let's take a look at this. We took a chunk out of those two berms. Now, technically, that should not have occurred. That berm is not part of that other model, so it should not have removed that. So let's read what our text says. Clear the area of the selected component inside the selected vector. And the selected component was the center circle. Okay. That center circle should have been removed. And let's click off of this so we can see everything. It should have removed that center circle. Let's turn off the two berms. This one. And that one. Let's turn off those two edges for a second. Okay, so it's removed that material on that center circle. Okay, that's the rectangle I told it to remove. That's that component. The berms, this is the berm. Stand tall. Oh, my mouse makes it difficult. You better believe by next week, next class, there'll be a brand new mouse. All right. I'll use that $20 that Kool-Aid sent me. Buy a new mouse. All right, let's go here and... Okay, let's see what we do here. Bear with me. Okay. So, that this add on top. All right, I got to step back. I got to step back. So I'm going to undo the change component. I'm going to undo the change component order. I'm going to undo the reset component type. I'm going to undo the movement of the vector. All those movements I made, I'm getting rid of those. And then I got to hit save on this at some point. Get rid of all these nudges, all these movements and everything. I'm stepping backwards, guys. Stepping backwards because I got to come at it at a different approach. All right. Control Z. I'm just going to hit Control Z. All right. There we go. Control Z was a little bit faster than that click, 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 click. Okay. So, here's where I'm at. I'm going to ignore this. And I'm going to connect this together. I'm going to get rid of that line there. Let me think. Okay, I am going to connect these circles together by, I'm not going to use these two dividers here. I'm going to use this circle and this circle right here, which completes a complete circle around. I'm going to use that to build my center, and then I will take and draw a rectangle here to remove from that part instead of removing from the foundation that was underneath that was causing the problem. So we're going to build up the shape height. This shape is going to be a curve profile. It's going to be 10 degrees. Slight curve. It's going to have a 0.03125 base height, and click apply. So that should get created right in here with these two. Okay. Let's close that. Okay, so this component is here. Okay. Now those two components are merging with each other and they're sitting on top of this foundation. If I turn that foundation off, they would be sitting on top of the star, right? So that would be them. And the turn that back on. That should raise that whole center area up. Okay. All right. Let's give this in our properties. Let's give this a 30-second 03125 base height. Wait for it. Raise that up. And let's give this one a 03125, a little shape height. That's the centerpiece there. Okay. And now stand by. We're giving it, I'm checking. Okay. Now I have a little bit of something to remove. I have a little bit of something to remove there, and it will remove it, and it won't remove my foundation underneath and create that funky effect. I'm hoping now. Let's try this. Let's go to the drawing tool. And let's draw a line tool. All right, on the line tool, let's go from here to here, over to here, up to here, and over to here. And let's remove that from this. And let's see what happens. Perfect. And if we look there, it's not taking it away from the berms. The berms are staying intact. The berms are staying intact. It's not removing a big chunk out of them. So let's see if let's look at the other side. It's not taking a big chunk out of them. Okay, good. All right, let's, how symmetrical is this? If I take that and I mirror it, flipping about job center, create a mirror copy, flip horizontally, bam, not bad, not bad. Lands right on the other side right there. So, hey, I'll take it all day long. Let's select that and remove. Beautiful. Good. I'm happy with it. All right, move on. That took us a little bit of time to figure that out. Put us way behind. Let's go ahead and get the state. Let's get the state of, give me a thumbs up if you're still with me. All right, all right. State of Texas. All right, state of Texas is going to be our text. I got to go back and name the other components too. Text set 3. And the state of Texas is going to have a little 10-degree curve to it. The base height is going to be a 1/16 of an inch. And it's going to be an add. And we're going to click apply. We're also going to add the draft to the state of Texas text. All right, looks good. All right, let's close that. Before we move on, let's get our draft on there so that we're, we've moved on beyond that. So let's turn off everything. State of Texas should be the only thing visible. Add the draft. 22 degree. We're going to stick consistent with our text draft. 22 degree draft. Click close. Rename that component. Change the combine mode to add. Rinse and repeat. Same way we did the other texts. Rename it to get rid of the word model and put text set 3. Well, that didn't work, did it? Let's try that again. Text set 3. And then on text set 3, we can turn that off. Remember, I don't delete the originals in case I need to backtrack. All right, so component 2. Component 2 is going to be, we're going to turn it back on. And that is this inner kind of, inner donut. I don't know what to name it. Let's just call it the inner donut for right now. Rename. This will be our State of Texas inner base. State of Texas inner base. We'll call it that for now. That's good as any name. And then our berms. We'll rename that and just call it our circular berms. Rename circular berms. Berms. There we go, like a berm on a racetrack. Okay, so now level 2 gets turned back on. Okay, wonderful. And level 1 gets turned back on. Instead of unchecking each one individually, I just turned off the whole level. Makes it quicker and easier and everything. Wonderful. All right, now the next is going to be this wreath and then the star. So the wreath is one thing on its own. So we're going to select that. Not the star yet. Not the star. Not the letter F, not the letter S, not the berms or the circles or any of that stuff. Just that wreath. Make sure no other vector is selected. Make sure you don't have any other vectors selected or anything like that. Okay. Now, this one is on the shape. It's going to be a curved profile. And I want this to have a little bit of shape to it. A little bit of shape to it. And so I want to go... oh, I wish I remember what I did with the leaves. Let's go with a 15, 22. Let's go with a 22 on this. No... Let's go with a 1/16 of an inch base. I'll see what that looks like. We might remove it. It's going to be an add. This is going to be my inner wreath. All right, Roger, thanks for the lesson, Laney. I appreciate you. Alan Lee, thanks for the thumbs up. Ronnie, thanks for the thumbs up. Johnny, can you make a rectangle the size of the material you want to remove and recess that material? If a component is there and you draw a rectangle on it and you do a subtract, yes, you could recess that area if you subtract from the model that's below. So if I have my foundation and I draw a rectangle on it and I subtract from that, it's going to remove that rectangular or whatever shape material from the model that's below it. So yes. All right, 22 degree, we're going to click apply. Okay. No, no, no. Don't want that. So the way the vectors are created, it is the way I have them selected, that outer border is causing it to do kind of a reverse effect. Don't want that. Don't want that at all. So I'm going to deselect that outer banner. Okay. So that it fills in those areas there. So everything is filled in. Okay, that's what I want. Now, up here, one of my leaves are missing. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's a leaf missing there. And I think that's it, just that one. Now, the reason for that is because there's no vector there for the leaf. Now, I can't just go through and mirror copy it over and all that stuff, because it's not the same on both sides. It's not the same on both sides. So I have to kind of snag and copy and steal and adjust another vector to fit in there. Fun, always fun, fun. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo the create shape for a minute. I'm going to undo the edit shape for a moment. I'm going to undo I'm going to redo the edit shape. Bear with me a second. I want to see what I'm doing. Okay, so that undo apply shape. Yeah, I've got to redraw that in there. So no problem, not a problem. I'm pretty handy dandy when it comes to this. Let's see here. We're gonna take this guy and we're gonna hold down the control key and we're gonna drag a copy of him. This is where I really need my mouse to play nice with me. There we go. I'm going to rotate him ever so slightly if my mouse will let me. This hold on a second, guys and girls. This is just a little bit tricky, only because I have a funky screwed up mouse right now. So again, like it says, when I'm trying to hold down the button, it's thinking that I'm doing a click and not a hold, kind of deal. So it's just a little goofy. Give me a moment. All right, now I need to do a slight, work with me. Slight rotation. All right, time to close out of this tool, go into node editing. On node editing, I'm going to take my shape here and I'm going to grab this anchor and I'm going to pull that. Maybe. I'm going to pull that, oh boy, line out and down. Here. I'm going to take this point, you zoom in, and work with me. Get rid of that. Get rid of this point. Zoom in, get on in there. Okay, zoom back out. All right, I'm going to take this. Work with me, line, work with me. Hold on. This is tricky without a functioning mouse. Okay. All right, now I need this gone and this gone. And I'm going to pull this out a little bit. Okay, let me see what I got here. I need this to come, oh, work with me. Need you to come over there a little bit. All right, now right here, I want to insert a point on this line so it kind of cuts that off so that I can focus on this lower part here to bring that out some. So there's a little bit of flow. And I want to bring this away from the edge just a little bit over here. So I want to bring this anchor in just a little bit so there's a little bit more meat there. And I'm going to be happy with that. I want to make sure that there's no crossover right there where my line is crossing there and there. That's a no-no. It'll cause problem with the model. So I want to make sure that I move those lines out to create that separation and everything. So we're just filling that area in. I'll be happy with that. All right, now I can go back and we can continue on. Let's go ahead and select everything. We are not selecting the star. Hold that shift key down and turn the star off. Turn off the of, turn off the rectangle, turn off the two circles. And I definitely want to turn off that outside boundary. And I want to go ahead and build that shape back. So same parameters. This is going to be my inner wreath. And apply. Now the inner wreath is also going to get a draft so it looks better, so it's not so straight up and down edges and everything. It has to, because the ribbon is so thin otherwise. You got to give it draft. So turn off S. John, no, I don't want to turn off the smoothing right now. But yes, I could hit the letter S to turn it off. And when I have a vector selected, and oh, turn off S. Turn off S. I thought you meant turn off S smoothing. Because S is the keyboard shortcut for smoothing. I'm like, I don't want to turn off smoothing right now. But we don't want to create that model that we just did of the S. John is saying, hey, turn off the S. Thank you, John. Okay, let's undo that. I didn't have to undo that. Yeah, I did. But let's turn off S and this also rectangle over here. Let's try that one more time. Thank you, John. I thought you were talking about smoothing. Okay, inner wreath. Apply. Good eyes, John. Good eyes. All right. All right. So now, close out of this very quickly. Actually, no. Let's go ahead and get the star built, and I'll do a draft on both of those two things together. Let's get the star built. Now, for the star, I'm going to do the outer boundary here. And this shape is, I want it to have kind of a pyramid shape to it. Okay? Now, this is going to be based off of angle, right? 45, that kind of thing, and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go with a 22.5 degree angle on this pyramid type shape for this star. And I'll leave the base height in there for right now. But now, my internal corners, I may want to preserve them. So I'll check that, and I'm going to click this as the star, and I want to click apply. Okay, so this way it kind of preserves the inner corners. It may or may not work with the star. It does. So it preserves those inner corners right here, those like creases, the creases there and everything. Those inner corners preserves them and everything. If I didn't preserve the inner corners, the creases should still somewhat be there, but they might not be as pronounced. So you can see they're a little bit more dull right there, right? So the preserve inner corners, which is new for 11.5, by the way, I think. We want to keep that so it keeps that crisp internal corners there, that nice sharp fold and everything. All right, let's start a new component. Now, these shapes here, let's select them. These are going to be somewhat subtracted, and they can come down at angle too, but they're going to, we're going to do no base height on them because we're doing a subtract. So 0 base height on that, no limit, and we're going to subtract from the star. Subtract from the star. So it should kind of create this we need to turn off the preserve internal corners and click apply. Okay, and that creates this shape here. Okay. All right, so now we're going to create the draft on these two items together. So let's close out of this. Let's turn off level 2. Let's turn off level 1. And we need to turn off all of the individual components. And if your levels get too big where you want to break them down a little bit more, you can add other levels. Just make sure the combine mode stays the same, you know, as the level you would have normally been working in. You can add as many levels as you want, just as long as the combine mode stays the same. All right, visible model. So we're going to go with the same draft. On these two items here. Let's go with a, and you know what? I want these leaves, I want these leaves to have a little bit of a foundation, ladies and gents. So give me just a second. We're going to build one more component. We're going to build one more component, this outer banner. We're going to build a shape. This is going to have a 10-degree curve profile. Let's give it a 1/16 of an inch base height. Let's click apply. Now, that should sit underneath, right, where those leaves are sitting on top. Okay. Beautiful. That's good. All right, let's close that. Now, let's select this component and move it down under the inner wreaths because it's kind of the foundation. And let's select these 4 items. We don't have to select them, but these 4 visible items. We're going to create a draft. 22 degree. I'm going to stick with 22 on this. Okay, smoothing. I'm going to apply some smoothing to this one too. It's a little rough. Click close, but I'm going to do smoothing kind of on all of it at once, possibly. So close that. Okay. Yeah, I'm happy with that. All right, let's turn off, because remember, it created a brand new model with the draft. So that model was all 4 of these components. It's one new model with the draft, so I can turn off this, 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 and this. And then I can rename this model. This will be my center emblem with draft. And I'm going to change the combine mode to an add. Okay. Now, let's turn everything back on. All right, we only got 2 or 3 more little components to make. I think just actually the little decorative thing all the way around and our circles, and we're good. Let's turn on our base. Let's turn on our center berm, circular berms, and our state of Texas inner base. Our state of Texas text with the draft. All right, let's take a little bit of a look at where we're at here. Let's see what we do not have turned on that should be turned on. What are we missing here? We are missing... Are we missing anything? We are good. Everything is on that should be on. Yep. So there's 2 things that we need. There's a couple more things that we need to do. We need to do our little decorative little flourish. And then we need to, bear with me just a second. Our little balls at the end. Our little balls at the end, we're going to round them up a little bit more. Okay, so here's what we're going to do first. Let's split the view. How we doing, guys and girls? How we doing? Y'all still with me? Y'all still with me? Good, good, good. Sorry, I don't mean to clap in the microphone, but just making sure you're all awake. We're almost done. I know it's getting late, 9:45. This is a long one, but we're going to go to the end. All right, so let's start with our little circles here. Now, these little circles... they're literally just kind of little smooth circles on the end of the star. They're not big domes or nothing like that. They're literally just a gradual kind of a little bit more of an increase of a dome kind of thing towards the end and all stuff there. So when we create this shape, let's not go too crazy in everything. We just, and we don't want any base height on this. No base height. We're going to go, I think I'm going to go 22.5. We'll see what that looks like. If it looks too domey on these little circles, then we'll change it up. So this will be our point circles and click apply. Okay, that's what I asked for, just subtle. Let me go a little bit more. Let's go 30. Little bit more. Not much. A little bit more. Okay. That's it. Just a little slight definition. That's all that's there. Now, we have something to do with the star, the big star. I'll show you that. That's last. The next is going to be our little flourishes, right? So all of our little flourishes. Now, bear with me a second because I did not click start a new component. I accidentally clicked off those circles and I didn't finish them off. Always finish off your component before you move to the next vector. So let's click apply on that one more time, and then always click start a new component before you go clicking other vectors, and that finishes and locks that component in. So let's start a new component. Okay. Now on the flourish, instead of trying to, select all of that stuff and everything, that flourish is on its own level. Decorative flourish detail. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to tell it to select the vectors on that layer, right? That's on its own layer, not level, layer. So that way I can just tell it to select the vectors that's on that layer, right? That's why layers is so cool and helpful. All right, now this is going to be a curved profile. We're going to go full on dome, 90 degrees. Full on dome. It's going to be small. It's a small dome. But 90 degrees and no inner corners. There's no inner corners to preserve. We're going to, on the base height, no base height. No base height. This is going to be our flourish. We want this shape from the foundation it's sitting on. We want the shape just to be created on the foundation. We don't want it to base height and then the shape. We don't want any base height underneath. We want to just create that shape. It's just a deck. All it is, it's a very light flourish sitting on top. So if we very quickly look at our example again here, this flourish is just barely raised up. Okay, it's just barely raised up. It's just a little decorative detail, right? So no base height. Full on 90 degrees. Let's zoom out so we can see it. And add, because we're adding it to the star. So click on that, click apply. Wait for it. It's a very small vector. So it's taking some time to create because it's trying to actually build a model, a component inside this little vector, right? And it did not create it from what I can see. It's still trying. My mouse is still working. So we're going to give it just a moment. Big Daddy Fish, thank you very much, man. All right, now I can buy a better mouse. I can buy a better mouse. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I don't think mouses are $60, but between you and the Kool-Aid, man. Hey, thanks, Sylvia Klosterman. I'm glad you think that it looks awesome. Hope you're doing well. Doing good, Lainey. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks for the thumbs up, guys. All right. It's processing. It's processing. It's working on it. There we go. There we go. Okay, now, sorry I'm late working on getting orders out. Man, hey, business first, business first. You'll be able to go back and catch some of the detail and what we've done here and stuff and everything. All right, so there's that little flourish detail. Okay, that's all that is, that little flourish detail in there and everything in there. All right, cool beans. All right, now, so far that this is our badge in its entirety. We've created all the components and everything for this badge. However, there's one critical, important detail that we need to turn on and clean up and all. It's our, we're missing our little banners out here on the ring. We're missing all the little banners with the flourishes and stuff, which are these outer leaves and stuff. Let's close that. And the outer circle down here in level 2 and the outer wreath on level 2, we can't forget to turn them on. They're part of that model. That was looking a little barren and a little bare there. Let's turn on that outer wreath as well. But all of our stuff was looking a little barren without it. Let's get those leaves in there. There we go. All right, so looking good. Now, one other critical detail, very important detail. I'm going to turn this to the side here. Turn this to the side here. Okay, now, having a good model, if you're going to be modeling and creating things and stuff, attention to detail is important, okay? And going back and correcting issues that that will improve this overall. We are making a replica, in this case, of a real badge. So once again, let me pull up this badge here. And let me pull this back onto the screen. Okay. Now, in the illusion of this badge, the ring, the star here, while it's sitting on top of the ring on the the bottom and everything here, it is going down under this ring at the top. It's going under that ring. That ring loops over that badge. Okay? And in our model right now, first of all, we have two big issues. First of all, we have two big issues. We have a big gap right here and right here where it doesn't connect with the ring. And the second issue is it's higher than this ring. We need it to go under the ring like it's supposed to look. We need to give it that illusion. Okay? So, the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to correct the gap issues. And then the last thing that we're doing for tonight, this is the absolute last thing, is we're going to give it that illusion. We're going to do what's called a fade on our model. And we're going to fade that model under that ring so it looks like it's fading underneath it. Okay? So, step number 1, we got to fix the gap. So if we look here, from where the model was created, let's turn on our main star vector layer. We got to turn it back on because that's important. That's what it was created off of, this main star, right? That's what it is. You can see that, let's go here and let's kind of zoom in really big and let's kind of focus on this top part. This is all we're paying attention to. You can see that our vector for the main star, that red vector that we created here and here, stopped short of the ring. So when we created the model for the star, it raised up that star, but it left a big void here. Okay? Left a big void here. Also, we have this vector that we haven't even created the shape on. We still need to create that shape for that vector. There's probably a couple of shapes that we still need to create a vector on and everything. Actually, this is a slight recess, not a. We're not building it up. Anyway, but first, before we do that, we need to get this to merge with this, right? We need to get it to merge in. Now, our main star and our outer circles are already in a merge mode, and they're already all on the same level. So there's no major changes that we have to make. The only thing that we have to do is we're going to be recreating the star model. So we have to remember when we recreated the star model, that star had a 15-degree curve to it, and it was 3/16, 0.1875 inches tall. We just have to remember those two key details, and we can go back and look at the star and the properties, and we can go back and, determine, and of course this is not going to show me the right height because it's sitting on top of everything else now, but it is 0.1875. But we can go back if we need to and kind of backtrack and stuff. If we turn off all of those other vectors and levels and all, that star should be 3/16 at its outer level. Then don't forget it's got the dome, right? The base height is 3/16. Okay, so don't want to confuse you, but here we go. We've got to, first things first, we've got to redraw this star vector to go past here. Now, I'm going to turn off so you can see. You should be able to see this clearly. I'm just going to do this here, but to make things a little bit more visible for us, I'm going to make it a little bit more visible for us so we can see it a little clearer, I'm going to create a new layer. Okay. And I'm going to take on that layer, I'll just call it layer 2, that's fine. I don't really know what to call it right now. But I'm going to take this vector, hold down that shift key, and this vector, which is my ring, and I'm going to copy them to that layer. I'm going to turn off all the other layers right now, so it's only these items showing. Okay? Okay. Now, I'm going to take this. I am going to go into node editing mode, and I'm going to go to the drawing tool. I'm going to go to the curve fit tool. These are Bezier curves. Not really. They're arcs, circular arcs more than anything. Keep sharp corners, yes. And redo that. Okay, so I'm just basically kind of redrawing that. Getting rid of all those nodes. Here, got a bunch of things there. Keep sharp corners. These are more straight lines than anything, but where it's actually the nodes are, they are curves, arcs. Let's go Bezier on this one. Replace. Okay. These are arcs. Okay. All right, so all I did was I clicked up on each three of these vectors and I did the curve fit tool and I just recreated them so they're a little bit cleaner with the nodes, because I'm going to be using the nodes for what I'm about to do, and I don't want to have to deal with a million of them, right? All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the vector on these corners. Okay, I'm going to take this vector that's selected right here, and I'm going to move it down arrow key, boom, 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 until I get over or inside of my ring. Okay. Now I'm going to use the extend tool, and I'm going to extend this line to here to recreate that corner. And I'm going to extend this line to here to recreate that corner. And I'm going to make sure that just because I extended the lines doesn't mean it's joined in closed vectors. So I'm going to go to join, and I'm going to take those two vectors and close them up. Easy enough, right? All right, down here, same thing. Node editing. I'm going to cut the vector. We're going to talk about this little slight curvature here in just a second. I'm going to cut the vector here. Got a little bit of a slight curvature there because when I just did the curve fit, it kind of rounded those corners a little bit. So I'm going to back up a little bit from that curve to a little bit on the straight line down here, and I'm going to cut the vector down there, doesn't matter where. And over here, the same thing. I'm going to kind of back up to the straight line a little bit and cut the vector there. And I'm going to delete those two kind of rounded curves. Oops, not that one. That one. Okay. Now I'm going to take that, use my up arrow, move it up just until I'm inside the circle. Don't have to be in there very far, just in there enough. And then I'm going to use the extend tool to extend this to here. But notice that I have a little bit of trimming to do because we're kind of, shortening up that radius a little bit. I'm going to extend this to there. Okay. And then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut and cut. And cut. Cool beans. Now I have two vectors, and that's the only two vectors I care about. I now have two vectors that I can use to recreate my star, and it's going to be kind of blended inside of that ring. And then we're going to do some fading, and that's the final thing we're going to do. All right. Need star inner line. Need star inner line. Same vector. There is no inner line on this. We're only doing the outside border of the star. There's no inner lines. So, John, go back and tell me what you're referring to. As far as the inner line, because no. This boundary, we need the boundary of this star, no inner line. So let me know what you are referring to as the inner line. Kind of see if you can better describe that for me so I can look for it. All right. So now coming back to our modeling layer and our levels, guys and girls, where my head is. My head's in the way a little bit, but those two shapes, the star shape right here is here. That shape, that's the star shape. I'm going to turn it off. Get my head out of the way. I'm going to turn it off so that the star, when I split the view here, so that the star is currently turned off. There's no star there right now. Everything's kind of sunk down because there's no star there. All right. Now, I'm going to, on the star, I'm going to select this and this. And the shape, create shape tool. It was a curved profile with a 15-degree curve, if you remember correctly. My main star. And it had a base height of 3/16, 0.1875. It's a merge. No limit. This is our, wait for it. This is our main star. We're going to click apply to build that shape back up. Now we're going to have to move it down in the list to where it was originally because it's the foundation, right? We don't want it on top of other stuff and everything. And we're in the wrong level to begin with. We actually have level 3 selected, so I should have selected level 2. No, that inner flourish, that inner line and everything, we'll talk about that in just a moment, John. It's not actually going to get used in this model, but we'll see what we can do with it. But it actually wouldn't get, we might do something with it. Yeah. So, all right. So now, number 1 is if you look at the model, the star kind of covered everything up, you know, because it's on the wrong layer. So let's close this. It's on the wrong level, not layer. It's up here. It should be down in level 2, right? And it needs to be down near where this other star is. Okay? So we're going to take this main star here, and I'm going to see if my mouse will let me grab it and drag it. Wonderful. And I'm going to drag it down to where it belongs, so that magically, mysteriously, and blah, 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 it all goes back to normal, right? Okay, so there's our star. And what John is referring to is the inner line. There's a little inner line that kind of goes around the flourishes and everything. I'll show you what we'll do with that, John, if we do use it. Bear with me just a second. All right. So now, one last thing. I'm missing a leaf right here. So if we look at our layers, let's turn our layers back on. So we can turn this off now. We don't need that layer visible right now. Layer 1, we'll turn that back on. We'll actually turn this one back on too. Let's see, the decorative flourish layer will turn back on, and layer 2 will turn back on. Okay, so what John's referring to is this inner line here that kind of goes around everything and stuff around this flourish and all. And up here too, that inner line. And if we do anything at all with that, we're going to use it to sink down. We're going to do a subtract. We're going to do a subtract on that to reduce it down just ever so much if we do anything. If we look at the model, here, kind of our badge and all, this slight reduction, and there's a little texture in there too. We're not adding any texture and all that stuff, but it's a slight reduction. It's a dip down. It steps down in this area. So we will create a little down level in that. So good on you, John, for seeing that. All right. Now, before we do that, I'm missing a leaf, because my border, this leaf and everything here, this guy right here is supposed to be the leaf, but it's actually drawn into the vector that's going around the leaf and everything. And so what we're going to do is, there's supposed to be kind of a leaf in here. Inside, a little centerpiece there. I got a big void right there. So number one, I am not necessarily concerned about a leaf being there more so than filling in the void. So I could just make it a straight line across here and just fill in that space and be done with it. Or I could go into node editing mode. I'm not going to deal with it right this second. I could come in here and cut the vector there. Cut the vector there. I could take this vector, go to my curve fit tool, and clean it up a little bit. All right, I can offset that inward, and it's a small amount, so I'm going to go a 32nd. Oh, wrong direction. Outward, a 32nd. Okay, to create that vector there. I'm going to join that vector with a straight line. And I'm going to join this vector back from where I cut it free from everything else. And here, I'm going to make sure that I'm in level 2, where my inner wreath is, or my wreath here. I'm going to make sure I'm in level 2 there, and I'm just going to build this shape. I'm going to do a curve profile on just that shape. It's going to have a, I'll go 15 degrees. It's going to be 1/8, 1/8, 3/16. No limit, merge, click apply. We got to hurry up. It's 10:13. We got to finish this up. Now, you see how it's not interacting properly with this banner out here? You see how it's got that spiky stuff and all? We're going to close this. The component that was just created is in this level up here. It's got to be down in level 2. So we got to drag it down there. Okay. All right, and it'll merge properly at that point. Now, these components, these leaves here, they have a 22-degree angle on them. This has a straight angle. I'm going to go back and make a 22-degree angle on it, a draft, right? Well, I don't want to have to turn off everything just to get to this component to make a draft, to make it the only visible component, right? So I'm going to take just a quick step here, and I'm going to drag this thing down. Close this. I'm going to drag it down even further into, come on now. Let me get my mouse working. I'm going to, oh boy, hold on. My mouse thinks I'm clicking when I'm not. All right, I'm just going to use the down arrow. All right, I'm going to bring it into level 1, so that way I can shut off level 2 check mark. That'll turn off everything for level 2. I can turn off the check mark for level 3. That'll turn off everything for level 3. And I can turn off the base. That'll turn off the base. And the only thing that should be left is this piece. I'm going to give it a draft, 22-degree angle. I'm going to click close. Now, because I should have had level 1 checked. Guys, I'm getting late. It's getting tired. I'm getting tired. I should have had level 1 checked. So it built the component down there. Level 3 was checked. So it built it up there. So I got to drag that down. God help me. To here where it belongs. Delete this component. It's nothing no more. I'm actually going to delete that one. I'm not going to deal with that. I'm not going to keep that original. Actually, that's a lie. I'm just going to move it back where it belongs and turn it off. Okay. Turn on level 2. Turn on level 3. All right, on this, turn on level 3. Okay, final thing on this component here, this piece, I'm going to, in the shape height, I'm going to bring it down to 0.15. I want a little bit of a lip across the top of it here. 0.15. Okay, good enough. All right, close that. Done. I'm tired of messing around with that, cleaning that up. So there's that little void missing. Now, here's the most important part. Let's get our base turned back on here. Okay. We now have these 2 stars here, parts of the star, this one here, that are merged in with this ring here. And we need to have it blend. Remember, it goes down into it, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to, on that star, we're going to fade it. Okay? We're going to fade it. Now, because we're going to fade this star, so it has that effect and everything of kind of disappearing and everything in there, we need to get this turned upright physically here. Okay? On the screen. And we're going to select the main star component here. When we double click on it, there's going to be a blue box. There's going to be a blue box at the very bottom in the 3D view. Let's go to the 3D view totally for this. There's going to be a blue box down at the bottom of this component. When we click on that box, it's going to open up the properties of that model. The properties box. And hold on a second. Let me see if I can grab the properties box. There we go. Now, when we do a fade makes part of the model disappear. And we're going to have 2 clicks that we do. We click where we want to keep the model. And our second click is where we want that model to disappear or start to fade or blend into something else. Right? So in here, when we turn on fading and we hit the set button, we're going to get an anchor with a number 1. And you can't really see that, but to the right of the anchor is a number 1. It's waiting for our first click. Now, I'm going to click somewhere down here, probably right about here, for my first click. Now the anchor will get a number 2 next to it. And my second click is going to be up here. Okay. Now it's going to start fading that model. Okay. And if I turn this up on its side along the X and tilt it just a little bit, let's go this way. Okay. The fade, because I only click down here, it's just starting here, and I'm at 50%. Now, I'm going to do, just so you understand what's going on here, I'm going to turn that fade up more. I'll go 62% here. And what's going to happen is it's going to start causing that model to disappear and blend. Well, if I click on, now it's red, so it's really sticking out at your eyes and everything. But if I click off of that, if I close the fading for a minute and click off the main star, you'll be able to see that here it's fading to where it's just underneath the ring. Right there, you can see that lip. That's what we want. But over here, it has not started to quite fade properly, because the fade really didn't start beginning till probably somewhere around here in the middle. Remember, our first click was here and our second click was up here. So we're going to redo that. We're going to turn this back up. We're going to go back into that main star tool and select it and open up the properties of that star again. And we're going to, on the fade, we're going to reset it. So we're going to click on set again. And this time we're going to kind of come down lower. Lower. All right, so I'm going to come down right about in here. And I'm going to click fade. And then up here, I'm going to click fade. Okay. Now it's going to start fading from back here. It's going to start fading as it comes up, into here. And you should be able to see just in that change alone how, if I zoom in, green means part of the model is hid by another component. So that green light means that my model is hidden by this component. So if I close out of here and everything, and I turn this, we can start to see a bit of a defining line here where it's blending, where it looks like it's going under that ring. So let's turn it sideways here. Okay. Now, if I come back in, stand by. If I come back in to that star's properties, and I click on that blue box to get my property box back, okay, the more I do the fading, the more it will, kind of fade away into almost virtually nothing, right? So I'm at 88% here, and I think I'm going to just go 75%, but let it regenerate. And now you'll see that that model is fading, and you can see that lip right here, right? You can see that lip there. Now, it distorts when I click on it because it's regenerating the model. All right? And but I think I don't need to go, let it regenerate. I don't think I need to go that much of the fade, right? So I'm going to go, and I got a weird anomaly happening right here. Let me make sure I didn't move anything. Undo move. I did. I moved something with my mouse. So let's hit undo move. Don't want to do that. It shoved everything to the left. Don't do the move. So put all that back. There we go. But I don't think I need my fading to be 88. I think I can just get away with 75. Wait for it. And what I'm looking at, I'm kind of watching this lip over here more so than that one, because it fades at a ramp like a wedge, you know. So I'm watching this lip, and you know, with that 75, let's click off so we can see. I've got a defined lip there, and it is going under, and I'm happy with that. So now let's get it looked upright and close, and now we have a more defined look for our badge going under that ring. Now, I also have this inner kind of lip going on around the badge or the banners here. That's my foundation. The foundation was created on my, you know, outside vector. My star, this guy right here, was created, the where I deleted those parts was removed. And so there's a little lip there, right? There's a lip on both sides because my stars are kind of sitting in my banner. That, even though it might look strange to you, that's supposed to be like that because this inner ring is sitting on top of that foundation. There's supposed to be that little gap, that little ledge, this little ledge right here. But what we're going to do now, the final step is let's take our little inner line that John was pointing out. This is the last thing, guys. I got to hit save. I haven't saved at all tonight. Save early, save often. This is it because we're running long. 10:27. I want to be finished in just a few minutes. John was talking about this inner line here. Now, this inner line kind of creates a, wait for it. It's still saving. Ain't nothing like sweet tea. Lord have mercy. Okay, let's get centered back on there. Let's get our board back into full view. This bear with me a second. This inner line here, and here, on the real badge and all, it's kind of like a recess, just a slight recess. So just to give that final step and illusion of this, and you can decide if you want to keep the recess or not. Now, normally I don't. I leave it just like this and all, but the recess might look good. I do not know how it's going to look down here on the bottoms and all that stuff, but let's find out. We're going to go into the Create Shape tool. This is going to be a flat shape. We're going to just take out a small amount just to create a little recess, a slight recess. So I'm going to go just maybe 20,000ths of an inch. And it's going to be a subtract. And it needs to, I'm going to stop that right now because I need to be on the same level as the star. And I was on level 3. It would not have come out right. So let's get on level 2. Level 2. All right. Here. Flat shape, 20 thousandths of an inch. Subtract. And the problem is it's going to do that for everything. So a lot of things are going to sink down. It did not do anything at all. All right, let's go a little bit more extreme just so we can see if it does anything. 0.0625. Apply. If it doesn't do anything, I need to go back and make sure my vector's closed. Closed. Okay, there we go. All right, so a 1/16 of an inch creates that recess. And I am going to cut that in half. To a 32nd. Okay. And close. Let's take into a full view here. Let's go into straight up and down. So this is our badge model. And that little recess, John, does add that nice little extra touch for the details. So good call on that one, John. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. All right. Now, I am very happy with that all the way around. And the last thing I'm going to say is, again, on these areas that we removed, if you didn't want them removed, you just wanted to recess that down, we could have left that wood in there and just kept it recessed down. This is removed, so it's like actually hollow on the backside, you know, kind of deal. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is the badge. Now, the very last thing I'm going to do is on the foundation, the base. I'm going to give the base a final draft because I think the edges would look just a little bit better if the bottom part had a draft to them. Let me see. Let me rethink that. Yeah. I'm going to give it a draft. And if it doesn't look good, I just turn that component off. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Very last step, we're going to turn off level 3. We're going to turn off level 2. We're going to make level 1 active by clicking on it and making it bold. The only thing left here is the foundation. We're going to, and that is the visible model. We're going to give the visible model a draft. Now on this one, I know I've been doing 22, 15 and all that stuff. Let's start with 22. Let's click apply and see what it looks like. Thank you, Sylvia, Dwayne, and Ronnie. Appreciate that. Everybody else, give me a thumbs up if you're happy with the way it looked. Be sure to like this video, come back and like this video. And you super chatters, I want to thank you very much. Super chatters, Kool-Aid, Big Daddy Fish. You don't know how much that helps. All right, let's go back here. And super chat, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are new, is a way just to support the channel, and there's a little $ under where you type in your chat and stuff there, and there's like all kinds of little stickers. There's stickers, and there's called super stickers or super chat. You can shoot $1 over or whatever, that kind of thing, and it just helps. All right, so what we just did here is we just added a 22-degree draft to that base. Now, I'm going to, let's step it up a little bit, 30. Click apply. That's going to make more of a prominent angle here. 30 degree. Wait for it. It removes the 22 before it replaces it with the 23 or the 30. So it removes the 22, so it went back to straight wood. This is the before, and the 30 is coming. It's building it right now. Building it right now. Halfway done. 55%. I think I'll probably go 22, but I want to see what 30 looks like. This is the foundation, the base. Okay. I like the 30. Okay, so now, last thing I'm going to do with the base, we're going to close that. I'm going to turn off the original. I'm going to make the base model with draft. I'm going to rename that. And I'm going to turn it to an add mode. So rename. Base model with draft. And I'm going to change it from the combine mode to an add like it originally was. And I'm going to break the edges off just a little bit with a smoothing before I turn anything else on. I'm going to give a little smoothness to the base. A smoothness kind of breaks the corners a little bit. I don't want to break them too much, but I want to kind of smooth the edges a little. So you don't want to go with the smoothing, you don't want to go crazy. Small increments do a lot. So I'm going to slide this over, let it regenerate. And let me zoom in so you can see the effect that happens. So when that smoothing comes in, it smooths the edge here. Can you see that? So let me turn the smoothing off. I want you to watch this edge and the side here. So that rough side and that kind of jagged little edge there. So I'm going to apply a smoothing to the base. Okay, just a slight smoothing, and I'm going to click OK. All right, now for that foundation, I want to turn on level 2 to sit on top of it. Okay. And then on level 3, okay. And that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to call that done. And the component, I can't smooth. I can't apply a smoothing filter to the visible component because it will want me to bake this thing together. And I don't, that's why I did the drafts and all, and everything on the angles and stuff. Okay, so now it's going to make a liar out of me. It didn't ask me to bake. It kept things independent, so that's good. But I don't want that much smoothing. I don't want to lose the detail. Let me back it up just a little bit. But basically, I'm applying a smoothing filter over this to just break up the sharp edges. Let me turn the smoothing off of the star. I want you to watch everything up here. And everything. Okay. There's not a whole lot of difference in everything, but we've already got our drafts and all that stuff. If I came in and on the model as a whole, let me come in here and click OK. Let it build it. I might not want to add a whole lot of smoothing. Let's find out. Okay. So what it did is it smoothed the model. It smoothed all the components, but it made one whole model. It kind of baked it together itself. Just, you know, added a 20% smoothing and it baked the whole model together. So that by itself goes all the way up into a whole new level. So insert a new level. This level, I'm actually going to rename this, and this is it right here. This is going to be finished model. Now, your original model is just the completed model without any smoothing applied to it. Your finished model is the entire model with a smoothing applied to it. I'm going to take this model and drag it up to this level. And I'm going to turn off all the preceding levels underneath it because it puffed up. It puffed up and everything, which is fine. But this is what happens when we actually give it meat and stuff. We're going to turn off level 3, level 2, and the base level. And the remaining piece is our model with the 20% smoothing. This is the final piece right here. I think it turned out very well. Let me know if you agree. And hopefully you learned something from this video. Hopefully you learned quite a few things. But now, if I need to redo anything with this model, all of my originals are in their original levels and all that stuff. I just turn those levels back on and I work with those individual components, right? This smooth model that's at level 4 that's by itself, it's everything. Think of like a cake. All the ingredients have been baked together into one model. And you can't unbake it, right? But that model, it's whole. If I need to work on it independently, if I need to work on the centerpiece, the letters, the this and that, I got to work on my originals and the levels and stuff. They stay. You don't delete them or anything like that. You keep them so you can go back and make changes or adjustments or whatever. Because let's say that we need to get rid of the 1985 to 2023, and we need to build another component for 2000 to 2010, right? We need to do that. We need to turn off that finished model. Actually, we delete it. We go back, change the numbers, create that model, and then recreate a new smooth finished model with the new. So we can redo this model, make the adjustments and appropriate changes to it each way we need to do. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I really appreciate every one of you for sticking this long. I didn't realize it's going to take this long to get this done. I didn't think it was going to be that long. I'm trying to get to the habit of creating less models, or less less time. If I would have known that, I probably would have broke this up into 3, part 1, 2, and 3. But for those of you that stuck around, troopers, I appreciate you. For those of you that left and are going to come back and watch later, thank you very much. And for you super chatters, really, really appreciate you. Until next time, hopefully you like this. Give me a thumbs up and spread the word. All right, everybody. See ya.